Hello, everyone. Hi. What a great welcome. Hi. I can't really see. Oh, I can see you better like this. How's everyone doing? Good? Okay, I feel like the energy is still good, just like it was yesterday. Nice. I'm Dalila again, and I'm here to host this final part of the conference. So I would like to welcome everyone again, and also welcome everyone who's watching through the live stream. Let's get some practical things out of the way. As you guys probably know, there's translation available from Dutch to English, English to Dutch. So if you don't have a headset and you think you need one, you can find them right there. Okay, but you're all set. Very well prepared. Also, I would like to remind you that the bingo cards, who's already playing the game? Very well, because as I said yesterday, if your card is full, you can hand it into the catering at the reception afterwards, and you have a chance to win Belgian chocolates, but not just any Belgian chocolates. These are chocolates by Dominique Persone, who is he's world famous. He's the best chocolatier. So be sure to play the game. I think that was all the practical things I needed to say, but I'm a little bit curious because I know how these conferences go. So I was thinking, how many of you have tried some Belgian beers while you were here? How many of you started this morning with a bit of a headache? Well, not to worry. This final show will be sure to wake you all up because I have some really interesting guests to talk to. And the first people I'm going to invite to join me on the stage here, I have to use my cards a little bit so I get the names right. Please welcome the members of the steering committee, Birgit, Goris, Griet, Briels, and Bart van Bouchaute. Birgit, you can go straight to the... Yes, take the stage.
Okay, so hello. I would like to give a final conclusion about the topic of climate change and climate justice. When we started with the preparation of this European conference in our steering committee, we had to decide on which global issues to tackle. And for too long, social workers didn't really address the climate change as a separate topic. So we are very pleased today to see that climate is now completely on the social work agenda. And I quote Professor Wim van Lancker when he said earlier today, this morning, that eco-social work is in fact social work. And climate change is not the only manifestation of the ecological crisis, but it does require a sustained effort to lessen climate change and to mitigate its negative effects. Accordingly, there is a steadily growing realization that good climate policy, per definition, implies good social policy. Climate change is at the very heart of social inequality, as vulnerable groups have less resources to adjust to the changing life circumstances, because they are more readily victimized by the negative impact of climate change, and moreover, because their voices are still not heard in the democratic debate on the design and pursuit of climate policies. So let's look into the climate justice then and the role and contribution social work might have. Our approach as a social worker should not merely be about the slogan, to leave no one behind, but more on tackling the global system that generates those left behind. We should be countering ecological inequality by advocating and giving voice to obtain socially just climate measures, because social justice asks for a structural change and not merely a behavioral or individual one. However, climate policy can be an opportunity to achieve positive impact in the social domain. more pleasant cities for everybody, or lower energy bills. I don't think anybody could object. But it's about applying existing social work methods and social work principles on new climate-related themes, such as developing new practices in the area of disaster management, focusing on rebuilding local communities after climate disasters with communities themselves. And I think the dweller-driven settlement movement of Serbia can prove us as a good example. So we need, as a social worker, to upscale the existing practices that already combine the social and ecological goals that contribute to the transition to a sustainable society for all. A coalition should be built around the need to connect ecological and social goals and to new forms of collaboration to support transition and the necessary structural changes. We definitely need to increase the sense of urgency among social professionals, organizations, and policymakers. And I like to end with a quote of colleague Chef Peters, who summarizes, in fact, our position as a social worker also in climate change and climate justice. Social work creates the context that brings people together and builds networks to enable structural responses. I thank you.
Well, thank you, Birgit. I couldn't agree more. The next guest that gets to take the stage is Griet, and Griet will be sharing with us the steering committee's key findings on social work and digitalization.
Digitalization is here to stay, and it offers possibilities also in social work. For example, it can help decreasing the non-use of social rights. At the same time, not everybody can keep up. So policy needs to focus on digital inclusion and has to create the necessary conditions for that. Digitalization can't replace classic forms of service provision. Services need to be designed with users. We call that inclusion by design. And they should be a clever mix of click, call, and connect. Click, a website, tool, or app should be easy to use. Call, a free telephone line to call with simple menus and short waiting times. Connect, accessible places for people to go and get help. Digitalization affects social work practices and changes the social worker's role and tasks. For example, more and more information is provided through digital channels and no longer by the person concerned. We are also seeing more and more digital and blended working. The role and contribution of social work is to alert both policymakers and other service providers to the inaccessibility of rights and services. Our role is not to take over the responsibility of other service providers and overburden ourselves as a result. But social work can take an important role in enabling digital inclusion. And last, social work has to use the opportunities offered by digitalization to reach and support people, and at the same time remain alert to the negative consequences of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Griet. And our final speaker, Bart, will be sharing the main messages on social work and migration.
Hello, Good afternoon. First of all, I want to say that the steering committee is very glad and proud that for the first time migration was a key issue on this kind of conferences because of its enormous importance for society, for social work, and not at least for all people involved. Migration is a specific societal challenge that comes in different forms. And this challenge includes, firstly, the right to request asylum on the grounds that refugees need international protection on account of a justified fear of persecution, conflict, violence, or other circumstances that severely upset public order. Secondly, intra-European migration and the consequences thereof for the accessibility of social rights. Thirdly, the precarious and sometimes inhumane conditions experienced by people with an uncertain residence status. Fourthly, the growing superdiversity of European cities and beyond, and the effects thereof on society. Fifthly, all forms of racism and discrimination based on migration background and respecting the rights of minorities throughout Europe, such as the Roma community. And finally, sixthly, the huge challenge of decolonization in society, but also in social work practice, social work research, and social work education. Accordingly, social work is affected in many different ways by migration issues. A lot of social workers contribute to the right to asylum, are confronted in their daily practice with people having a precarious residence status, stand up against racism and discrimination, are engaged in protecting the rights of minorities, and support young, unaccompanied refugees. In their daily work, social workers are also increasingly confronted with issues relating to immigration law. This implies that a good knowledge of and a realization of rights in this domain should be strengthened. Social work organizations are also challenged to find a response to the growing ethnic cultural diversity in our societies. Ethnic cultural diversity should not be seen as a problematic issue for social work organizations, but rather as an observation and a starting point. What is the specific role and the contribution by social work in the field of migration? First of all, we have to remember and to really be profoundly convinced that social work is a human rights profession and thus is committed to the protection and the realization not only of the right to asylum, but to all human rights of all people in all kinds of trajectories of migration. This is a very difficult but a very fundamental task. Transnational social work should be strengthened with regard to family reunification, newcomers, unaccompanied refugee minors, people without legal residence status, Roma communities. We have to recognize the value of all kinds of self-organizations, informal practices, set up by migrants or other volunteers that can emerge for very different reasons, sometimes to complement offer existing social services, sometimes as help under protest and criticizing when the offer and the services are very inadequate or not available. Social work can contribute to building support for a super diverse society, given social work's specific expertise and experience in facilitating communal life in local communities, and working to support diversity and inclusion necessarily implies taking a clear stance against racism and discrimination. Social work must therefore resolutely commit to a decisive and offensive approach to racism and discrimination, and also remain wary of all kinds of insidious forms of exclusion resulting from a non-acknowledgement of differences between people. Thank you.
Well, I thank all three of you. I feel like the committee is very happy with the way this conference has been going. So can you give us, like your general feeling right now? Are you all excited? Did it work out the way you planned? Just a final thought.
As I said before, I'm very happy that we tackled those three topics in this conference. I think it are challenges for every social worker on daily basis. And it's important, I believe, that we unite our voices and that we can give strong messages also to policymakers, because the change has to be done on a structural level.
Yeah, very true. Well, thank you very much. Do you want to add something to that, Bart?
I think it's important because, there are a lot of conferences and, how
we
it
know
goes.
we do not know what you mean.
And I think that we have to applaud the people who prepared the conference and the people who did a lot of work with stakeholders, with all kinds of stakeholders on national and also on European level, and still succeeded in putting forward real important themes and having a kind of agreement to really explore these themes and really do something very vivid with it, with a lot of practices presented, with a lot of discussion possibilities, and I think that made an atmosphere and a climate that it's not, anything goes.
No, we're not just talking here.
It's not anything goes, and I think that's important.
Okay, very well. Would you like to add something, Griet?
I think we showed social work in a very strong and positive way.
Yes, in a very strong and positive way. Thank you guys so much for joining me. You can take your seats. Let's give them a big round of applause. So I've asked them how they were experiencing the conference, but someone also asked you. And so there's a video with your impressions of the last 2 days, and I'm very curious. I'm going to remain seated and make myself comfortable. So let's watch the video with your impressions of the conference so far.
The highlight was meeting new people, hearing new ideas.
It was a beautiful experience for me. I love it.
And I must say it's very striking because I've been to a few conferences, but I've not seen so much diversity in the room. As a person of color, I can see that there's a lot of work that has been put into ensuring that there's a diverse participation in this conference.
What I'm going to remember is that from Singapore, where I come from, the issues are not far different, and what social workers need to do is not far different, except that we come from two different parts of the world. So this is something that has touched me deeply. Yeah.
I haven't been working in social work that long, only since September, so now I can have a view about more things that they are doing around social work, so I can take it home and do more around it.
So it's very interesting to see a point of view of social work in different countries in Europe and to get a bit of exchange. So I'm very happy to be here.
So here we come across many types of people and many academics and researchers and practitioners at transnational, local and national regional levels. So it's a good opportunity for us to work with them.
Like this conference for the future, we can use each other experience and so out we know how to better and better we can make the migrants for the future.
You feel here that there are a lot of innovations and it's good that we're here with other countries, and I think we can take it to our other countries and explain to the policy makers, okay, but they are doing it there and it works, and so I think we can make a change if we cooperate.
If history has shown something to us, is that when we gather together to achieve objectives that have been determined in common, it's easier to get there.
In general, it was a very nice conference with a lot of great and intelligent people, and I hope there's also one next year.
Well, that was a very smart thing to end on. Everybody heard it. We need to do this again. Yesterday, as you know, we opened the conference, she opened the conference. We had the Flemish Minister of Welfare, Public Health and Family, but her colleague, the Flemish Minister of Youth, Media and Poverty Reduction, is also very intensely involved with this conference, and he's here, so I would like to invite him up here for an interview. Please give a warm hand to Minister Benjamin Dallop. Yeah, let's do a handshake. Well, thank you for being here and taking the time, and welcome. You've just watched the video with us. What are your impressions? What do you think?
Good afternoon, everybody. I already heard that it was a great experience for most of you, and that's also what I saw on the screen.
Yes.
It's heartwarming, overwhelming to see that so many people from most countries of the European Union, but also other countries, we saw many different countries there, are present here to exchange about social work. As a chairman of the Union for Youth Policy, I'm also very proud that the Belgian presidency has put social work at the core of its presidency. And I understood that it's the first time in European history that this is done. I also understood that many of you want to have a continuation of this, so yes. I think this is a very clear signal from Bruges.
Well, he's here, he heard it. Yeah. Well, there are three main themes to this conference: climate, digitalization, and migration. So, could you explain a little bit about why you feel like these issues are central issues, why they are so important?
Yeah, I think that these issues are really well chosen. They are not only some of the most urgent challenges for mankind, but they are certainly also very present in the daily life of people in Europe and social workers, especially. When we're talking about climate change, this is one of the principal subjects that has been put on the agenda by young people. You certainly remember their demonstrations in the streets all across Europe and all across the world, also here in Belgium. So this is something which is very, very present in the daily lives of people and has a profound social impact.
Yes.
Digitalization also, and there you can see a real paradox, certainly also amongst young people. On the one hand, many young people are early adopters. For instance, a recent technology like ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, is already used by 42% of young people. So almost half of young people in 1 year time, because ChatGPT doesn't exist that long, are already using it. And on the other hand, there are also 21% of young people who state that they have difficulties in adopting even basic digital instruments and needs. So this is quite an urgent social need to work on it. And third element, migration is of course a huge societal and political debate. In my own country, Brussels, excuse me. That's wishful thinking as a Brussels patriot.
Exactly, you are from Brussels.
Actually, I'm born in Bruges, but I live in Brussels, in my own city, Brussels. Okay. 3/4 of people have a migratory background. Mm-hmm. And of course, there are still many people coming to Europe, and I find it very important to stress the relevance today of international solidarity and solidarity with asylum seekers. But still, we also have to be aware of the challenges that this migration poses, and also to make sure that everybody in our countries, in European countries, are aware of the possibilities and the challenges. And so I think these three subjects are really well chosen and are very present in social work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Your responsibilities as Flemish minister include youth, and we talk a lot about children and young people, but do we talk enough with them? That's one of the questions. And how do you suppose that you can make the voices of these young people and children, including the most vulnerable, how can you make them heard in your youth policies, but also in the policies of your fellow ministers?
This is a really good question. I very often cite Mahatma Gandhi on this. He said, "What you do for me, but without me, you actually do against me. So to include people, to include young people and all people concerned in policy making is really crucial. As a Minister of Youth, it is evident to do that for my own youth policies. But the big challenge is indeed to make sure that they are heard, that they can participate in all policy domains. Whether you're talking about well-being, public transportation, or even the economy, young people are concerned and have specific needs. And that's why in Flanders we have a youth and children's rights policy plan. This is a decision of the Flemish government where we have included 5 priorities. They are, for instance, about mental well-being, public infrastructure, digital knowledge and digital literacy, or engagement, commitment, and fifth priority is having leisure and youth work relevant and accessible for all. Yes. So this is a way to do it. The other way is, of course, to include participation in all policy domains through participation of youth councils, for instance. We have a very active Flemish youth council in Flanders. And I see also that the impact of this participation is profound, and it should be present at also not only at the Flemish or a Belgian level, but also at a European level. And that's why I have pleaded to have in the next European Commission a commissioner who is responsible not only for youth, but also for children's rights, and with a youth check which applies to all policy domains, not only to the policy on youth itself.
Interesting. Well, we're 2024 now, and we get to be all together in this room. But 2 years ago, this would have been difficult. You know, COVID, we sometimes want to forget about it, but it wasn't that long ago. And that period was really tough for children and for young people, especially those in vulnerable situations. We heard many stories of children being stuck in the house, in abusive homes, in violent places. So together with the Flemish government, you have then created extra funds, extra money to better support those children in vulnerable situations. And what I would like to know is, to what extent was it important for you to listen to the social workers in the field who were, who were advising you?
Yeah, there were many messages, signals from social workers and children and youngsters alike. And from the beginning, we were in a direct dialogue, not a physical dialogue, but through Teams or or other digital means with them. And they have taught us a lot. For instance, the reality in many families who live in poverty is indeed a reality where there are no gardens, where there are no big houses, but there are maybe small apartments, even without balconies, and very limited access to public space. And one of the first things that I have tried to put on the agenda on the basis of the signals was to say we have to keep public space, certainly open public space, we have to keep it open. And in the beginning of the COVID crisis, this was not respected. You certainly remember the sports facilities, the playgrounds, which were forbidden terrain for young people. It was quite a bad image. Yeah. But also social workers have put this on the agenda. I was very proud also that in the legal instruments which were adopted as of the beginning, that social workers were recognized as, quote, an essential job.
Yes.
So this was also a very important thing, and it was not all about funding for projects, but because this was very important, we had an action plan which was called Generation Resilience, to stress the resilience of this young generation. But so it's about funding, but it's certainly also about giving space to young people. Yeah. And what I found very frustrating in this period was that emphasis was put, and this was correctly done, on education and keeping the schools open, but that there was not sufficient attention to leisure time, youth work, sports, culture. This should not be underestimated. When you're talking about young people growing up, education, of course, is important, but activities during your leisure time are as important for your development.
Yes, and for your mental health, of course. Well, we've been well, they've been sharing with each other for 2 days. How important do you think it is for social workers across Europe to inspire each other and to connect with each other?
Of course, many countries in Europe are very different. Belgium is not the same like, let's say, Hungary, but the experiences of social workers are quite similar, and it was in the speech just before that all social workers have one thing in mind. That's to work for human dignity and human rights.
Yes.
And so you all share this collective objective, and of course the context in which you are working can be very different, but this fundamental aim, this fundamental mission is identical. And so that's one of the reasons why I think it's so good to exchange best practices. What can we learn from each other? And of course, being a social worker is quite a tough job. What you guys are doing every day in the field, on the ground, is quite challenging. You are confronted with difficult situations, and also for that, I think it's good to connect with like-minded people who share experiences and who can support you in this very, very important mission that you all share.
Well put, yes. So, of course, I think it's already been made clear in a few of the speeches that have passed, but there's a lot of societal challenges that put pressure on social work and on social justice. So can you elaborate a little bit about a strong European social policy that is needed to meet all of these challenges?
Yes, and I think that Europe has understood that social issues should also be at the core of their mission. In the beginning, of course, Europe was a great peace project, and it was fundamentally also an economical project about the free market. Nowadays, most European politicians are convinced that social policies should also be included in the European Union policies. A very important milestone, I think, was the adoption of the Charter of Fundamental Rights. I think it was back in 2009, which has established that the European Union is not only a union of peace, prosperity, and free enterprise and free market, but also a space of human rights, of fundamental rights. Next important step, and I must admit it's because I admire her so much, and she's of my party. But it's Marianne Thijssen who, as a commissioner, has installed the pillar of social rights, and it was a huge step forward because there was an enumeration of all important social matters which should be respected in Europe, going from employment for all to respecting diversity and non-discrimination. And of course, in the future also, these ideas should be implemented, because it's one thing to have this pillar of social rights established, the other thing is to achieve it. And this is the mission also for the Union the next couple of years.
Yeah, that was going to be my final question. Like, how do you see the future, and what should we be focusing on in the future?
Well, we as European states, we are very well developed and rich nations, and still there are some pressing issues which are not sufficiently addressed. I'm also responsible not only for youth, but also for poverty reduction, and I found it unacceptable that in a thriving nation like Belgium or European nations, that there are still so many people living in poverty. And the most urgent need, in my opinion, is to address child poverty. It is in the first years of your life that your opportunities, your chances are determined. And so I think this is a mission for all of us, also for a Flemish or a Belgian government, but certainly also for the Union, to make sure that the Union will be a place where there's no space for child poverty.
Right, that's a great thought to end on. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Give him a big warm applause. Well, I've decided to really make myself comfortable today, so I'm not getting up anymore. No, it's not true. But I have another panel, so we have 3 more very interesting people to talk to, because we've seen how you guys have experienced the conference. We've heard from the steering committee and from the minister, but there's also some European stakeholders that I would like to invite up here with me. First of, I have Eileen Lauster, then Mouna Abdesselem, and thirdly, Michel Tirions. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to be here with me. I have on my cards here, I have like a little bit of a bio of the three of you, but I think it might be better if you introduce yourselves. So Eileen, let's start with you. Can you explain a little bit, who are you, what's your stake here?
Yeah, sure. My name is Eileen Lauster. I don't know if you can hear it. Doesn't? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Eileen Lauster, and I trained as a social worker in the U.S. But I now live in Ireland. And just to mix it up even more, I'm studying for a PhD in social work in Durham University in England. Yeah.
Okay. Mouna.
Hello, everyone. I am Mouna, and I am a civil servant. I'm a French civil servant with a strong interest in education and training of social workers. And I also work for an independent council that's supported by the French government, which is called the High Council for Social Work, that makes position papers and also supports the social work field, where people from very different sectors and perspectives on social work are members, including trade unions, employers, associations, experts by experience, and scholars. And so the objective of this council is to build consensus around hot topics or questions of social work, be it like a consensus on a political project, but also on a practice where we need ethical or deontological support. So it can be a bit theoretical at some points, but very practical as well. So,
okay, interesting. And Michel?
Hi, I'm Michel Tirions. I live in Antwerp. I'm from Belgium. I work as a researcher, lecturer in social work. Currently, I'm in a mandate as program director at Upper University of Applied Sciences and Arts in Antwerp. I'm also the chair of the board of SAM, which is a knowledge hub and support center for social professionals in the social domain, here funded by the Flemish government. And my international stakeholdership is connected to the fact that I'm a member of the executive committee of the European Association of Schools of Social Work. And this is a European body that builds exchange and organizes conferences and brings together social work education in Europe.
All right. Well, I'll stay with you. Can you share with us a little bit what are you taking away from this conference?
Well, I've been writing in this little book, and I decided to take it with me.
You can use it. I have my cards.
I'm not going to read it, but well, it was a wonderful experience. But first of all, let me say, and that's perhaps the process is also important in social work. It was the atmosphere at the conference. There was a lot of respect, a lot of listening, a lot of exchange, and I met a lot of people with different backgrounds. I've been going to research conferences or educational conferences, but this conference brings it all together. So that was really great, a great feeling. The other part is that from my point of view, it was really an international conference. And I know from the point of view of the organizers that this was not so easy to establish. But I think when you manage to have 1/3 of your participants coming from another country, knowing how difficult it is in this situation to find fundings and whatever, I think that's a great job. It was really, from my perspective, an international exchange.
Well, nice. Mouna, what do you take away from the conference?
What I take away is a reaffirmation that social work is all about politics. It's a political activity. And I put it in the way that if we want to build a society that leaves no one behind, which is the profound sense of a democracy, then we need to do it on a day-to-day basis, and it's at the core of the social work practice and the social work policy making. So how we do it first is by considering that social work is not about finding a solution to a tricky individual problem, but considering as well the structural constraints, the issues, the global issues or the local issues, and including these thoughts into our daily practice. So we can think first as a collective, be it through the first dialogue that we have between the person who comes to a social worker and the social worker, him or herself, and then in building the communities, speaking with the families, the community, and the society as a whole. So it's never about individuals, it's always collective work, and it's all about building a true democracy.
Wow. Hey. Well, that's gonna be tough to follow. Like you're in the hot seat now. No, but what did you learn from the conference? And is there anything that you're going to apply in your practice?
Okay. So yeah, it's, I think my colleagues here covered a lot, and I would agree with both of them. For myself, my research is in youth work and climate change and sustainability, and so for me, I had a chance to do a deep dive into the climate stream that was here as one of the three to choose from. So that was really great. But at the same time, I believe social workers are multidisciplinary. We're multifaceted. And it was great to, during the breaks, to speak to people about migration or speak to somebody about digitization. So it was great to have the three themes together. And that is something that I will take back with me, is just that reiteration that social work is, you know, multi-skilled, multi-talented on all different levels, working with individuals, communities, and policy. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stick with you because you get the difficult spot. You can get to answer the next question first. Okay. You know, as you mentioned, you've talked to people from all over the place. Are there any like surprises? Have you learned about social work in another country that surprised you?
Yeah, actually, what surprised me was how social work is done here in Belgium. So, like I said, I'm based in Ireland, so I'm very familiar with how social work is practiced in Ireland, but also being in the UK for the last 3 years. And what I witnessed in both of those countries is much more of social workers being pushed towards being case managers, and we're losing, in my opinion, our wonderful community skills. And it was very nice to see and hear people in Belgium talk about neighborhood services and community services. So I was really glad to hear that type of social work is still going on.
All right. Nice to hear, like, as someone who lives in Belgium, it's nice to hear that, you know. So, Mouna, can you share, like, something that surprised you from another country?
Yes, I will share with you something that's typically French. We champion the terminology debate, so how should we call this or how should we call that, and what new word should we say? So I was surprised here that the people who come and see a social worker are sometimes called klant or client.
Yeah.
So this is like it gave me some food for thoughts. So maybe it has a bit of a customer connotation or commercial connotation. And in France, I can share with you that we have this ongoing debate on how to call them. Are they users of the social services, beneficiaries, because sometimes we give them cash benefits, or are they, sometimes we say the accompanied people or the concerned people, and we fail to find the right word. Maybe we should think this through. I don't have the answer for this. I wish to come back and see you again, and we share the new solution to this very useless problem.
But well, I think this is a good thing to talk about during the reception. You know, we can debate the terminology. Yeah. Michel, is there anything that stuck with you that really surprised you?
It didn't really come as a surprise, but I again learned that social work is really an international profession. So it comes in so many varieties, and I heard I saw very nice presentations and panels and discussions. And practice is always related to the context, and it's great to have the opportunity here to learn about each other's context and how practice emerges from it. But at the same time, I learned that what connects us all is the fact that we work for human dignity, human rights, that we share a set of common values, that in our developments in research, practice, and education, we all go our own roads, but in the end, we start from the same starting point, which is the value that every person has the right to live a life in dignity and to live the life he or she wants to live with reason. And that is something that is not new, but it's something that came up really strong in this conference for me.
Well, it's beautiful to find those commonalities and to feel like we are in a room with people who hold these same values dear. So, well, it was very interesting to talk to you, and I wish we had more time, but I have to follow my script. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask everyone to give you a big round of applause, and, and you can take your seat. Oh. There's been some changes to the script, so I have to look for the right card now. No, I'll get up, because I've been sitting for a long time, but let me just check. Sorry, talk amongst yourselves. Well, no, I'm just going to have to do this off the cuff because I can't find the right card. No, I just want to thank you all very much again for creating this warm, welcoming atmosphere for everyone that spoke, because I can feel it, and I hope you guys can feel it too, that there's this buzzing energy in this room that I've enjoyed thoroughly yesterday and today. I hope you guys have all enjoyed the program, have enjoyed getting to know each other. Don't forget to fill in your bingo card and give it. Yes, I know what I'm doing. So don't forget to fill in the bingo cards and give them to the catering, because, as I said, Belgian chocolates by Dominique Persone. You don't want to miss that opportunity. But enough from me. I've been talking for a while now. As always, I think, not as always, but I think we should always do that. The final word has to go to an artist. I think artists are, they need to take the final word and wrap it all up. And so we have someone very special, someone that I know and love, here to wrap up this show. And she's been given quite a difficult task, because she had to write some poetry about those three big themes that we've been discussing. So I'm very, very curious to see how she did, and I know it's going to be great. I know you'll all enjoy it. So take a deep breath and just let the words flow through you, and join me in welcoming Sakina El Kadouri.
Are y'all alive? Are you okay?
Yes.
This is great for me because I am a bit nervous, but once I just mention it, maybe my nervous system is like, okay, it's fine. And the great thing is, I cannot all see you because the light is so bright. That's totally fine. Hi, my name is Sakina. I'm from the great country of Antwerp. Wink, wink. I'm a writer, I'm a spoken word artist, I'm a student, we're all like mentioning our big degrees and stuff, so I'm gonna do it too. So I have a bachelor's and minors in social work with a specification in youth criminology, and I'm currently studying a master's in gender and diversity. So all that's been said very, very much speak to me. All these themes have passed through all my courses of gender and diversity, and of course as a social worker I've also been into contact with these things. And as a writer of the honor, this is insane because I actually get to wrap up these 2 days. How are you feeling after 2 days of all these exchanges? Tired? Yeah, people are tired, people want to get out. It's fine. I just want to do a little energizer. So I'm going to say strong, strong, and y'all say social work. We got this. Yeah, we got this, we got this. Ready? Okay. Strong, strong.
Social work.
Strong, strong.
Social work.
Strong, strong.
Social work.
Oh my God, an applause for yourself. Wonderful, thank you. That's great for me, because then I can breathe a bit. As a kid, I was taught that the earth is an amana. Amana means trust in Arabic. I was taught that God has entrusted us with taking care of this planet. Years later, as a young adult, I learned the same thing about the body. That your body is also an amana and should be entrusted and looked after, just like the planet. See, there's a beautiful parallel with the body and the earth. We should listen when it speaks, take breaks when it needs, and most importantly, reflect upon what could be done better. And we should do better. I recently read an article that said that climate change is slowing down the Earth's rotation. Let me break it down for you. So, the Earth is getting hotter, and therefore the ice caps are melting, and therefore the Earth is slowing down, which means weather patterns are blurred, which means those who have even lesser means are the ones taking the hardest hits. We, as humans, manage to disrupt the Earth's simplest task of revolving its own axis. I have learned that chemical warfare is being used to expel, divide, lose countless human lives. I have learned that phosphor seeps deep into the Earth's soil, deeming the soil infertile, contaminated, weakened, causing indigenous people to flee their homes while we watch how a European-funded genocide is live-streamed on our phones. Climate change, migration, and digitalization are therefore telling us many things. That it shouldn't be normal, that cobalt mines are being emptied bare hands, knees deep, exploited labor for dirt cheap because profit is preferred over people. That if Palestinians must die, we must live to tell their stories. That it shouldn't be normal that our most vulnerable communities bear the harshest cries, dehumanized and treated with little to no respect, finding themselves at the margins of society and no, obviously not by choice, but because of governmental neglect. As a social worker, I learned that everything is interconnected. Mass exploitation feeds into capitalism, feeds into environmental harm, feeds into classism, feeds into racism. The story goes on and on and on and on. And the cycle doesn't break. The cycle doesn't break as long as we don't have a mutual understanding of what's at stake. We should learn from those who came before us. And I'm not only talking about the generational mistakes. I'm talking about practices of liberation and dismantling systems of oppression beyond your organization's yearly day of commemoration. Social work is a verb. It's an action of trust in human rights as they form the basis of this profession. People, just like the earth, are an amana and should be entrusted with to be taken care of at all times. Social workers, dismantling structures of power, I deeply urge you to keep going, to demand justice, ceasefires, and equity day by day, hour by hour. Thank you very much.